and a collection of the old obsolete money. These lot here were presented by a Castlewellan man who is now living in England. His father collected them before the First World War, and some of the pennies are nearly 300 years old. These are old pair of scales I dug in my own garden, the place where the people that used to test them, and I suppose it had been misled at some time or another. This here is a large coffee grinder from many brothers, and is a showpiece of this museum. Here we have one of the Castlewellan Agricultural Show original committee values, dated about 1933, and a little wooden rattle plug, which would be illegal today. This is a cutthroat razor with a little story. A while back I missed a razor from my collection and was greatly vexed. But a man from Belfast, who I have never seen, heard of, or ever will see, or likely to hear from, sent me this little razor which belonged to his father, and I'm very happy to have it here on display. Behind the coffee grinder you can see an old weighing bar. This was used in the upper square at the turn of the century. It was mounted on a tripod and was used for weighing grain and even hay. People think that the present day bale is something modern, but in those days the hay was also sold in bales. Those were large sacks. You put the bale into it and it was then weighed and sold. Here is a little toy steam engine. It was given to me many years ago, and they see it advertised in catalogues dated about 1911. It was in perfect working order. The leaflet from St. Malachy's Library. Nobody knows the age, but it states that to be a member cost you a halfpenny a week. Here a photograph of the Ansley family, some relations, a lot of his workers, a lot of businessmen from the town, and seated here on the left is James Mullen, the man who owned the mills. St. Malachy's Primary School attendance board and bell must be dated very early in this century. We also have here a little musical doll given by a woman from Newcastle in perfect working order. There are two old washboards here which belong to people in the town, and I think these are only used now as musical instruments. Here we have the tilly lamp on the right. This burned paraffin oil, but converted the oil into gas, which was burned through a mantle, giving a very white, clear light. It was a great boon to the housewife. And this, on the left, is his predecessor, the hurricane lamp. It burned paraffin oil through a wick. pair of old horse slippers. And this is a little old typewriter belonged to a man who had a little tuck shop on the hill prior to the war. He later ended his days as a village postman. This is a very nice toiletry jug. It's a pity the bowl was smashed up and disposed of. And here we have the old faithful three-legged pot. Up here, two crocks of different shapes. The crock was used for cracking eggs, beef, milk, water, butter, you name it. And it was stored in these jars. Here we have two old relics from the railway station. The one on the left is a crest from the railway bridge, and the other is the pouch for carrying the points, the key from the points. When the station master put a train on the line, he locked the points and no other train could get up to the same line. And the key was carried from that station to the next before the train was allowed to move off the line. There are some places and things in Castlewellan that have not been photographed in the past, and I have attempted to pencil draw them from memory. This here is a corn crane where there's photographs of it, but sitting on the wall in the bottom left hand corner you can see a little box. This was a glass case filled with new shoes, boots and clogs made in a little shoe and clog factory hidden by the corn crane and owned by busters. And over on the right hand side, the bottom corner here, behind the wall, is one of those green painted old cast iron gents toilets. It was universally known as Pot's Po, after Pot of Hare, the councillor who fought for years to have it installed. And when I mean universally known, I really mean that. The first time I heard it called, or knew it called that, was from a letter I got from a man who was born and reared in Castlewellan and emigrated to Canada. And that was in the 30s. The local experts tell me this is a bedspread. It is of cotton and knitted, hand knitted in small pieces and on sewed together. It is 100 years old. Here we have two number plates as compulsory in church in the early days as number plates are on the cars at the present time. And we have here an old notice board found in the derelict house being knocked down by the Tony Steele of T.S. Foods Limited in the town. It is dated 1887 and it just states, "I legally here to park your church in Castlewellan." These old scales are used for weighing beef on a beef cart around the town and district from about 1920 to the 1950s. And this old motor pump below must be very old. There is tire makers' names on it, which no one has ever heard tell of. This hunk of machinery here was the old bacon slicer out of Minnie's. It was lying in a yard for 50 years, and it took me a month to restore. This is another old coffee grinder from Minnie's. It was a standby, and then when I was restoring it, after it had been lying around for about 40 years, I discovered a little drop of the old ground coffee on the inside. It smelt the same as the day it was ground, and I couldn't resist the temptation of putting it into this little bottle and screwing it on the side. This old truck barrow gave 50 years faithful service in the local railway station from 1906 to 1956. I then used it for carrying my oxyacetylene bottles for another 30 years. And I think the old fella has earned his rest. This baby's feeding plate was a present from Mrs. James Morden from the Mills to the firstborn of one of their employees. It is dated 19 and 20. The employee was a jockey, and at that time Mordens had a string of racehorses which they raced all over Ireland and England. This here is a bottling machine from Tommy McCann's pub in the main street from 1900 to about 1960. At that time the beer was delivered in large wooden barrels. The beer was allowed to run into this little tank on this machine. It was then sucked by mouth through these pipes until the beer started to flow. The bottles were then slipped onto the pipes one at a time, and when were filled, were set aside to be corked, labelled, and ready for the bar shop. Excuse me, the bar chef. I was told that one good day's bottling was 80 dozen, and that is near 1,000 bottles. There was no time for fooling around then. We will end our tour with this shot of the town's old friend, the coffee grinder, and I hope it will revive many memories and old stories of the last 100 years. The commentary was ad-lib throughout, and having to work under very cramped conditions with poor type of lighting for nearly 4 hours continuous, maybe you can overlook the defects. Perhaps the next time it is taped, it will be in a more spacious and proper museum in the town.